Kandiwa, Timbasokola Mara, Ngatigotiga, 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 Kerunari Momona, Ome Kandiwa Baba, Kerunari Momona, Ome Kandiwa, Kandiwa, Timbasokola Mara. At this particular point, ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite Mr. Peter Mwangi, the Chief Executive, Nairobi Securities Exchange, to come and make a few remarks.
Thank you very much, Walter. Mr. Eden Mohammed, the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Industrialization and Enterprises Development. Mr. Henry Rotich, the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury. Honorable Najib Balala, the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Mining. Dr. Evans Kidero, the Nairobi County Governor. Mr. Paul Ngugi, the Acting Chairman of the Capital Markets Authority. Mr. Eddie Njoroge, the Chairman of the Exchange. Mr. Jim Nambaru, the Chairman of the Kenya Association of Stockbrokers and Investment Banks. Mr. Paul Muthaura, the Acting Chief Executive at CMA. Ms. Rose Mambo, CEO CDSC. Members of the Board of the Capital Markets Authority present. Members of the Board of the CDSC present. Council members of CACIB. The Directors of the Exchange. Distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My role this morning is really to welcome you all to this function. It is a very important day for us. It's one that is a major milestone, not just for the exchange, but also for our capital markets. Let me start by welcoming Mr. Eden Mohammed, who is here representing His Excellency the President, who had confirmed that he would grace this occasion with his presence, but unfortunately was called away to attend to other matters. And I know, Waziri, that you were approached at the very last minute, and we thank you for agreeing to step in and come and be with us today. Also to thank our Cabinet Secretary, the National Treasury, who is our parent ministry, if you like. Thank you for coming. I think the fact that you are here on the 23rd of July to launch the IPO for us, and you are here again as we celebrate the success of that IPO, is a testimony to your own commitment and your support to the development of our capital markets. To thank the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Mining, for coming, a good friend of the capital markets. We hope that we will get a chance to work with your ministry to give opportunity to Kenyan investors to participate in the mining sector as that develops and as we put in place the requirements for local equity participation in those enterprises. Mr. CS, I think you can convey to us, to the President, our deepest gratitude for the support that he has given to the exchange, and in particular to the demutualization process. He himself set in motion the process whose completion we celebrate this afternoon. His personal involvement, his encouragement, and his support have been invaluable in getting us to where we are now. And so we hope that you will convey to him our most sincere appreciation for his support. He gave the directions for the establishment of the Demutualization Steering Committee, which was charged with the responsibility of developing a legal framework to guide the demutualization process and the self-listing, but also to deal with all the technical and policy issues that were around this very complex and protracted process. And I would like to recognize members of the Demutualization Steering Committee who may be in the audience. This was chaired by Stella Kilonzo, who was then the CEO of CMA. I had the privilege of being the vice chair of that committee. Our demutualization champion was Paul Muthaura, and I see that we have in the audience the likes of Jairus Mwaka, Lillian Bindio, Donald Uma, Andrew Ashira, and others. And we'd like to thank you because the work that you did set us off on this journey, which we conclude today. I would also like to welcome all of you and to thank you for your patience in waiting for us to get started with the formal proceedings. We value your presence, we value your support, we value your continued participation in the market. I see CEOs of listed companies, of trading participants, nominated advisors, and so on. And we wouldn't have an exchange without the participation of all the market players and the stakeholders. And I would like to extend a very, very warm welcome to all our new 17,859 shareholders. We are very happy that we managed to get so many Kenyans and foreigners to subscribe to the offer. You will know that we had intended to raise 627 million, but they actually gave us 4.8 billion shillings. Unfortunately, we cannot accept all of it. But I can assure you that the refunds have been processed and the investors have received their cash as we speak. And I can assure all these investors that as an exchange, we value the trust that you have placed in us. We will utilize the proceeds from the offer as promised to invest in the business, to grow the business, to roll out new products, which we believe is in the best interest of the entire capital markets. For a long time, we have been preaching to companies out there the value of being listed. And now we've had the opportunity to go through the process ourselves, and we have to walk the talk. I can assure any companies out there looking to list that it is actually a worthwhile effort. It's pretty straightforward, but you can't do it unless you have good advisors. And in our case, we were very, very fortunate because all our shareholders were advisors to the issue. And I'd like to thank very much the joint lead transaction advisors, Standard Investment Bank, who are led by Mr. James Wangunyu, Mr. Job Kihumba, Amish Gupta, Diane Blair, led by Mr. Jim Nambaru, Stephen Mathu, Sarah Kinyua, Lea Nyambura, and Renaissance Capital, who are led by David Dalhuisen, working with Stanley Karaoke. We also had joint lead sponsoring stockbrokers, African Alliance, Faida Investment Bank, Genghis Capital, Kingdom Securities, and NIC Securities, and all the other firms in our market acted as co-sponsoring stockbrokers. Hamilton, Harrison, and Matthews, who are legal advisors, Deloitte & Touche, who are the reporting accountants, CDSE registrars, being the receiving agent, and we had PR support from Brand Strategy Design, led by Ms. Eva Muraya. And we had Cooperative Bank serving as the receiving bank. To all these advisors, please accept our sincere gratitude. You took part in what turned out to be one of the most successful IPOs we have had in our market. We believe as an exchange that a demutualized and self-listed exchange is good for all stakeholders. Government and policymakers, when they give policy incentives, can rest assured that any tax or other fiscal advantages given to the exchange are being conferred to a truly national institution owned by a wide cross-section of Kenyans, and that whatever benefits accrue are not captive to a few people. The regulator, I think, will find that a demutualized and listed exchange is more transparent, better governed, and they will therefore be able to delegate their regulatory authority to the exchange for us to provide that first line of surveillance to the market. Listed companies, market intermediaries, you know that we will be making the investments to provide you with world-class trading facilities. So I think it's a win-win for everyone. And CS National Treasury, I think there's even something for the taxman. If we have more companies listed, it is good for the broader economy. But I think it is important, as we debate this issue of the reintroduction of capital gains tax, that due consideration be given to making the market even more attractive to potential issuers, so that we can attain our objective of having 100 listed companies over the next 4 years and a market cap of 4 trillion shillings, and to place Nairobi as the international financial center for our region. So we really do believe that we all have a reason to celebrate, because the event we celebrate today is good for everyone.
Thank you very much, Henry, and my cabinet colleagues, the Governor of Nairobi County, the chairman of both CMA and NSC, and all investors. I am here, as you've been told, to represent His Excellency the President, who couldn't be here. And I would like to make a few remarks before I read his official speech. But I just want to make sure that I'm very brief. I was just asking the chairman of NSC, given all the stories that we read in Business Daily, if I asked how many billionaires there are here, how many people will raise their hands? He told me, don't even go there. Then he made a statement about how gentlemanly we were many years. He said, maybe I'll try to find how many gentlemen we have in the house. And I'm sure many people will raise their hands up, because it is an industry that still is very much dependent on trust and reputation. And so I won't even try that, because I'm sure many of you will do that. But I just want to make a couple of points, really, given my role as the minister responsible for the private sector, on how excited I am to follow the developments of what the NSC and the entire capital markets is doing to improve the wealth creation capacity for our country, and how much room there is for us to drive the, if you like, the leveraging on our capital markets in a much bigger way than we've ever done before. And looking around, I see very many colleagues, friends, people who we have worked with, and the growth and the successful stories that each one of you have built to bring us to this story of now where we are, where NSC is itself a listed entity. Many of us in the private sector used to think that was a dream, but the dream now, I think, has come true. And like many other things, like the Minister Balala mentioned, we should not stop dreaming, because I think if only we stop that is when things will not necessarily happen. But if we set our goals out there, we should be able to drive some of these things. There are two very broad, important areas that we have shared with the private sector, the government is working on in driving the success of our private sector, and by extension, the success of the wealth creation that is happening through the stock exchange or the securities exchange. The first one is really the government's drive to reduce the overall cost of doing business. I won't go into a lot of detail, but the infrastructure work, be it in roads, rail, energy, the port of Mombasa, a lot of that work will continue, and you will feel in the next 2 to 3 years the impact of that work onto the bottom lines of many of the companies that are listed on the Securities Exchange. The second one, which has been touched on, is really to deal with the ease of doing business, our competitiveness as a country, as an economy. That also has already demonstrated some good success. We have moved 16 positions in the last 2 years upwards, and I'm confident we will continue to do that. And undoubtedly, that would also improve the bottom line of the companies that are trading on here. And we're working with them extremely hard to make sure that we can make it easy for people to do business in Kenya and attract both the domestic as well as foreign investors to do more business in our country, and along the way, make it much more easy for our people to create and generate wealth. And along the way, we can raise more revenue to do work for our country. So I could talk more and more when I'm within the private sector people, but I think I'll restrain myself to that point. Let me now take this opportunity to deliver the speech on behalf of His Excellency the President. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to ring the bell to commence trading in the shares of Nairobi Stock Exchange. I guess we're doing that shortly, right? In ringing the bell, we mark the end of a journey that has seen the conversion of NSE from a mutual members association to a public listed company owned by over 17,000 shareholders. We celebrate the growth and the flourishing of a Kenyan institution. Ladies and gentlemen, our private sector is the most energetic and innovative in the region, but we remain some way short of a truly free and prosperous nation that we envisaged in Vision 2030. A vibrant financial services sector that supports our private sector will create jobs and hasten the advent of that happy day that we're looking forward to. That is why Vision 2030's medium-term plan 2013 to 2017 lays out ambitious targets for access, stability, and efficiency in our capital markets. To achieve these targets, the second medium-term plan identified two key flagship projects for the financial services sector. One is the establishment of Nairobi as the international financial center, and secondly, the development and implementation of the capital markets master plan. The demutualization and self-listing of the NSE were part of my government's plans to position Kenya as the financial services hub of East and Central Africa. Indeed, the NSE is only the second exchange in Africa to list its shares. It follows the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, now the operator of the largest exchange on our continent. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say a little about the capital markets master plan. As you know, our markets have seen substantial reforms in the recent years. We ought to solve the regulatory and institutional problems because we knew that we had to strengthen our market infrastructure, our intermediation, our oversight, as well as our governance standards. These things do matter. If our markets are to mature truly, they must be transparent and well-governed, and they must serve the needs of all Kenyans. Now, the listing of the NSE builds on those recent reforms. It will enhance accountability, transparency, market discipline, as well as governance in terms of corporate governance areas. We expect it also to encourage further innovation in your product and service offerings. And we also expect it to deepen market participation much more than we've seen before. We seek transformative economic development, and this is a step in that direction. Ladies and gentlemen, I have emphasized inclusion and the importance of wider participation in financial markets in this country. Let me now mention three recent promising innovations that I wish to encourage. First is the recent launch of Growth Enterprise Market segment. I believe it was designed to cater for the public listing of growing small and medium-sized enterprises. It seems clear to me that too many of our small and medium-sized businesses lack the capital that they do need. It seems equally clear that there are untapped pools of capital within our country, and that this innovation has the potential to connect the capital-hungry businesses with the much available money that they need to grow. Let me very strongly encourage you both to expand this initiative and to raise awareness of this new segment that you have recently launched. Second, in the real estate investment trusts, the introduction of REITs will provide Kenyans from all walks of life with an opportunity to participate in the real estate markets at an affordable and diversified way. To preserve access to REITs, my government, through the National Treasury, the Capital Markets Authority, and the Kenya Revenue Authority, will ensure that the tax framework to support this market is supportive and very clear. Third is the derivatives market. Not only do derivatives offer a wider range of investment channels, they also present a mechanism for hedging risks, whether on currencies, interest rates, minerals, or agricultural produce. For the first time, the Kenyan farmer will be able to lock in the value of their produce in the future. This will enable our farmers to find the financing that is necessary to plant their crops based on future selling prices. We know too well that the overuse and misuse of derivatives has led to trouble in other markets in the recent past. They will be carefully regulated here, and I believe their use opens new, productive, and innovative opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also say a little about the annual African Securities Exchanges Association Conference, which you are scheduled to host this November. I do not need to tell you that you will be Kenya's ambassadors to a very wide audience of our peers. Do not let your country down. Mine is to ask you to showcase Nairobi as the financial services hub of East and Central Africa, and to make the case for Kenya to your compatriots. With these few remarks, I wish the exchange a happy Diamond Jubilee, and it is now my pleasure to officially announce the commencement and trading of NSE shares on the main investment market segments of the exchange. Asanteni sana. God bless you all. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. Well, if you look on your screens, the trade now is being shown for the NSE. Yeah, it's being shown. 1740 is the trade. It's 1740. Yeah. To the President of the Republic of Kenya, to the Capital Markets Authority, and to the Nairobi Securities Exchange and the new trading of shares. Cheers.